Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Craig DeCicco from DeCicco Woodshop. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell everybody about your business and your background? Like, how'd you get started?
I've been sort of building furniture or building things for most of my life. I was in the Marine Corps, like first time living in a house, and I was just building some crappy furniture for myself. And then slowly started building slightly better furniture for myself. And then a few years go by and some friends started asking me if I could build some furniture for them. A couple more years go by of that, and I'm just like, anybody else want any furniture? And I'm just slowly building my skills. And then 4 years ago, 2018 or so, I started DeCicco Woodshop and, really started pushing for the custom furniture. I did it part-time, just sort of nights and weekends for about 3 years, working another full-time job on the side, which really helped to sort of grow the business in terms of all the equipment I needed, and in the shop and all that stuff. I could sort of fund that and continue to grow my skills. But then August of last year, I quit my other job. I'm doing woodworking full time. Yeah, I know.
This is a really big question that I get a lot in the community. And I have my own method. I call them the freedom method, right? Like you quit your job, and I think right now I'm up to, I can't remember, 6 or 7 people that I've actually helped quit their full-time job and go full-time on their wood business. But I'm curious, how did you do it? You walked through the steps, like that moment when you realize, like, all right, this is what I want to do full-time, and then walk through the steps on how you actually did it.
When I first started building furniture for other people, it wasn't really in my head as a goal to do it full-time. Mm-hmm. But I have had a goal for a long time, most of my adult life was to just run my own business. I've just always wanted to work for myself. And I've had several ideas over the years, nothing really that I was that passionate about. But over the years with the furniture, it just started growing and growing, and I was just more and more passionate about it. I loved it. I loved the work. I loved learning it. The seed started to be planted, like, maybe I could do this full time. So like once that seed was planted, then the goal's sort of been like, okay, what do I need in terms of like equipment? What do I need in terms of skills? What do I need in terms of like, financials to make this a full-time business? And so the last couple of years before I quit, I sort of made sure that I had all those things. I wanted a little bit of a savings backup, almost a year's income I had saved just to have backup. I bought, the equipment that I needed, that stuff. And I was building a backlog of work. As a part-time woodworker, I was backlogged about 6 months, and that was pretty consistent. So I felt like I've consistently got work coming in. So I started to feel good about that, because as a freelance, it was the first time in my working career, like, to not have a known paycheck coming in past your last booked job. But once I got those things in place, my wife and I talked, like, and then the big push was I got a big commercial job for 3 big tables, like conference tables. And I was like, well, we hit the goals, and now I can't complete this job as a part-time woodworker. I just can't do it. So if we think we're ready, then let's go. Like,
what did you do for work before?
I was an operations manager, kind of a supervisor at a manufacturing plant. Yeah.
Does your wife work?
Yeah. She's got a very good job.
Okay. So that helped. Okay.
That helps a lot, yeah.
And the first thing you did was you got all the equipment that you needed, right? Second thing was you built up a year's worth of savings.
Yeah, about, yeah.
And then was there a mindset shift that you needed to have?
A mindset shift?
Yeah, yeah. Seems like you're a Marine veteran, right? So you probably have a strong mindset of like, you know, I have the skills, I have this in place, I'm prepared. And so was it an easy transition?
Right. Yeah, it was scary for sure. I think the mindset shift was a gradual thing. It probably took me from like, hey, I want to make this full time to let's save all the money that I make from woodworking was like going into savings and whatever. But it probably took me probably more than that, probably 3 years to like get where I wanted to be. And then during that time, that mindset shift was happening like the whole time, right? I'm like getting ready to do this. I'm really looking forward to doing this. I really want to do this. So it's like by the time it actually came, it was certainly still sort of nerve-wracking, but it wasn't like, okay, now I need to change how I think about things. You know, it was sort of a gradual thing.
For sure. And then when you did it, how did you quit your job? Did you give 2 weeks? Was it a month?
I actually did. I gave him a couple months. Okay. Well, it was like a month at full time and then a month at part time. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I probably could have given him 2 weeks, but I like
you felt committed and devoted to your job. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sort of I mean, it was a small shop compared to the big company that we were a part of. Like we were a part of a big company, but like the shop was pretty tight knit, and so I felt some responsibility to help them out. For sure.
Okay. And how did you build up a backlog of work? What was your marketing like plan strategy when
you know, I don't know that I had a real set plan. I have a few interior design friends that send me a little bit of work throughout the year, but I had a ton of just word of mouth, friends of friends. And that was actually one of the kind of goals too, sort of a side goal to like going full time was like not doing just work for friends. Cause like the first couple of years, like friends were a lot bigger proportion. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's a two-way street. Like they're supporting you, but you're providing them a very valuable product and service, right?
Oh, sure. But it's more about, am I marketable to the random public versus just people who already know me? So it was like, I need to get past that one circle to the next outer circle of people who don't know me, who are just contacting me through my website or contacting me through social media. I'd say the biggest thing I did was probably my website. I like got a contractor to help me with some search engine optimization. Yeah. And it really worked. I get a lot of traffic. I mean, a lot for basically a website that's just a portfolio. It has nothing else on it. But if you like Google woodshop near me somewhere in the area, I come up on the first page usually. And I get probably a dozen or so leads a month from there, and probably 20% turn into work.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 to 20%.
That's great.
So that, the couple interior designers, I've sort of built a little bit of a network with just local woodworkers, and we pass work to each other. So I've gotten a few leads that way. The piece I just delivered was from another woodworker who, he does part-time woodworking. So I think he just really picks and chooses the work he wants. So when it's something too big or something, he's like, yeah, go over to Craig. He does that stuff. So that kind of thing.
That's awesome, man. Dude, yeah. So you invested early in your brand, right? Got a website up, did a little bit of search engine stuff, which is nuts because I just pulled up, I have a super secret, it's not so secret, software that I can analyze how much traffic your site is getting. And the fact that with the SEO that you did do, that you're getting about a dozen leads, that's incredible. The percentage of clicks to leads is really high, which means that your web design is fairly good and effective, and it's very targeted. So kudos to you for doing that. That's incredible. So you invested early in your brand, made it an intention to get out the friends and family trap, right? And what were those first couple of years? So I guess it's been a year full time now. Like, how's it going?
It's going great. It really is. I can't keep up. I'm booked up 4-5 months right now. with a couple quotes sort of
Floating out there.
floating out there, or we're like in the design stage where I don't really consider them in my backlog until I get like that first down payment. So like when we're in that design phase, there's a few that we're sort of in there.
But what did you decide to focus on a particular product early on?
Early on, no. But I mean, I love doing dining tables. I sort of love some of the Nakashima inspired live edge Japanese joinery on the base type stuff. That's just what I personally love. So like when I'm designing with a client, they say, hey, I'd like a table. I'm like, well, first, do you have any design ideas?
Yeah.
And then we can go from there. If you don't, would you like some design ideas? And then I'll push that sort of stuff that I really like on them.
Yeah.
And if they give me some design ideas, I'll sort of implement the things that I like on their design ideas. But that was sort of my focus. Otherwise, I'm sort of like ultra custom is my kind of what I've fallen into, is really get into the details on like, this is a one of a kind piece of furniture. I don't think I've built the same thing in the last 5, 6 years, 7 years that I've been doing this as like a intentional woodworking journey versus like just before it was more just hobby. But I've never built the same thing twice, and I don't suspect that I will.
Do you like that?
I very much like the challenge of the new pieces. It is like a new chess match every time to figure out, okay, how am I going to build this? I would not say it's the most efficient way to...
It isn't, yeah.
It's the most efficient way.
For sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I try to charge for that ultra customization. Sometimes I do it well, and sometimes I get into a project and I'm like, oh man, I screwed this. I screwed this up. But that's part of the learning process right now, I feel like.
Yeah. I noticed you have quite a bit of a large social following. A, how did you do it? And, B, does it help?
Hard to say if it helps. How did I do it? I don't know. For a couple years, I was doing the thing like, what was that podcast? Malecki and this guy. What was their podcast called? Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they were just like, be consistent. So like post every day and do that.
Yeah.
But before they really screwed with the algorithm and before Reels and before whatever the previous Reel version was, when you could just post every day and gain a social
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody saw your stuff. It wasn't necessarily early Instagram, but it was like in the middle range where you could still get a decent amount of followers. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Reels, I did a few of them, and a couple of them went off. I have one Reel that's just me with a chainsaw mill being an idiot, and it got like 2 million views.
Wow.
And that got me like a few hundred followers, but those followers I don't feel like are clients, so it doesn't really matter. So back to the second question of like, does it help? I get a handful of inquiries from social media. It's hard to say. I probably could track this if I had some fancy software of who goes from Instagram to my website. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I can see it if they click through Instagram, but if you just go to a separate browser, I don't know how one would know that. But anyway, so I don't get that many inquiries for custom work. And usually they're like, how much does it cost? And I'm like, well, it depends on a lot of things. Here's a huge ballpark number and a huge range. And then they never get back to me. It's usually what an Instagram DM sounds like.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting. So I do notice on your website, you had the custom furniture, you had the tables, you had bowls and cutting boards. You're not really doing much bowls and cutting boards, right? Those are like fun hobby type things, or? Yeah,
the cutting boards are. I am gonna do one for a friend actually, like soon, but I don't really want to do cutting boards anymore. The bowls I like doing, and I try to do some bowls. I have one that's like drying, and a few that need to be finished. So I'll try and knock them out.
The real moneymaker is furniture and the tables.
Yeah. The margins on that.
Between both of those, which one do you do more of?
What, bowls and bowls?
No,
bowls
between
boards?
custom furniture and the tables.
Oh, I do mostly, probably 60% of my work is dining tables.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's the future hold for you?
I mean, right now, well, near term, I'm trying to build a new shop, a bigger shop. And we have a little bit of property in Durham, North Carolina, nearby here. And it was nicely wooded. It still is nicely wooded, but it had some great pine trees on it. And I have now harvested those pine trees and some nice southern yellow pine. And I've milled them into beams, and I'm going to build my shop out of, like, timber frame my shop. That's the goal, to try and do that while working full time. So that's the near term, is to, like, get that new shop going, because I'm in a 400 square foot shop right now, a 2-car garage, but it's not a garage, it's like my basement. And the efficiency is just terrible down here. I gotta, like, go, my driveway is like up the hill, around the bend up there, so I gotta bring materials all the way down. I gotta get materials or finished product all the way up. I gotta beg and borrow from friends to, like, help me carry this heavy crap up and down. So, like, new shop, will I be able to just drive up and drop off furniture and drive up and put furniture in and whatnot. Like, it's just be a huge efficiency gain, and just more space. It'll be about 1,000 square feet instead of 400 square feet. So that's really, I think, the biggest thing for me, is to just gain efficiency in how I'm doing things down here in the shop. Because if I can get, a custom dining table might take me 2 weeks right now. I mean, not a full 80 hours.
Yeah.
I'll do things in between, but it would take me 2 weeks or so. But if I can get that down a week and a half, something like that would really, really help me to squeeze more into a year's worth of income,
For sure. Do you have plans to grow beyond you?
I've thought about it a little bit. I definitely do not want to get too big where I am managing people and not building furniture.
Oh.
I don't know what kind of model I could set up with, like, 1 or 2 employees maybe, but I still want to be all hands on. But I mean, the amount of income that I would need to be bringing in to even employ one person right now, like, would be. I've thought about, like, I do get a lot of requests for the small cutting boards and stuff, and I do have one pop-up shop a year at my friend has a furniture store, and she always asks me to come by there, and I do, like, 1 time a year, and I make a bunch of, like, coasters and cutting boards that I do on, like, the weekends, and the stuff sells. So I've thought about, like, could I have one person just do all that small stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that model is yet.
For sure. Well, this is the part of the interview where I give you any marketing or business advice. And so, that if you want to talk about that, or you want to talk about, anything else, like, is there anything that you need help thinking through, or any marketing business questions that you have?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot about, my marketing sort of strategy, because currently I have a lot more work than I can accomplish. And, like, I'm booked up 4 or 5 months, but I do sort of worry, like, since I don't do that much active marketing, by the time I realize it's drying up, am I going to be too late to, like, start? But then again, I'm like, well, if I do start actively marketing and, like, start getting a lot more leads, I'm just going to tell people that I can't do their work for however long. So I'm, like, in this weird stage. I guess the work keeps coming in currently, so I haven't felt the need to, like, be more active, like pay for some ads or something. Or I've thought about reaching out to, like, I am part of a local, like, small business organization, and they do a bunch of things that, I could reach out to them and they could put my name out there a little bit more, stuff like that. But I don't know. That's sort of like a weird in-between spot that I feel like I'm in.
So how would you phrase a question in 1 sentence? The challenge that you're having.
It's like, well, I guess the question is, do I start pushing some sort of paid marketing for more leads, even though I'm booked out currently 4 to 5 months?
Okay.
Do I start doing that?
So maybe the question is, what is the best strategy to continue to bring in leads, even though that I am booked out for 4 to 5 months?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good question? Like that's lingering in your head?
Yeah.
This is a dilemma that like anybody that's ever talked to me personally one-on-one or had an interview, they're like, I don't want to do more marketing because I'm already too busy, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, if I bring in more business, it's only going to push back my time, right? Like my lead time, and I won't be able to actually serve the customer, right? So the question, and this kind of goes back to what I said before, the question before this one was like, how big do you want to get, right? Because I was kind of leading down that road with that line of questioning. For one, is you never take your foot off the gas, ever.
Right.
Ever. Because I've had a client, I ran a campaign for them. They helped them sell, I don't know, it was like 10 tables in a day. 10 custom tables in a day. Like, we ran a campaign. I wrote the ad. I launched it. It was a killer offer, and he killed it. He's like, he sold a lot of tables in a day. And he was like, I need to turn off the marketing machine because I'm overwhelmed, right? And you're 5 months saying, like, I'm overwhelmed. This is just me. I don't have any help. There's all these other things. So there's like a bunch of pieces where I'm going to break it down for you. For one is like, conceptually, you never take your foot off the gas. Two, if you're busy, you're not charging enough. So I would raise your prices, right?
I have been doing, yeah.
Three is, it is incumbent on you to grow your business. You have to grow your business. What does that mean? That means is like, you need to think beyond you, right? And outsource some of the things that are taking up a lot of your time. So you can outsource some of your marketing. You can outsource some of your sanding. You can outsource bits and pieces of the things so that you are really focused on being the face of the brand, putting your finishing touches, and focusing on the things that you truly, truly love to do, right? Mm-hmm. When you think, a lot of times people are like, I can't even afford to do this, and this, right? Like, you actually could if you think about it, right? I like to think of it like this. I used to live in New York City, and when my wife and I had kids, we both worked full-time, and we needed childcare. You have kids?
We got one on the way.
Okay.
First one.
So, congratulations. So, there's going to be this thing where you realize that anybody that has kids and they need childcare, you will make it happen. I'm not even going to tell you. My wife and I spent an entry-level salary of an employee to take care of my kids. And then I'm like, I didn't even know I had this money. I could have bought something. I could have bought a BMW. You know what I mean? Like, I could have bought, like, a nicer house, right? I just didn't know that I had that money. And that's literally what you need to think about when it comes to your business. You're not spending money on an employee. You're making an investment in a person that will give you back time so that you can focus on higher level things. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, so the first thing is raise your prices. Second thing is start delegating a lot more. Like, you have to start that. You have to start delegating and start thinking about that. And then the third thing is really, so like having more time so you can take on more jobs, and B, you're making more per profit, so then you can therefore invest in, again, not hire, invest in employees, invest in building a team, right? And then the third thing is, like, look, I'm very hot on SEO at the moment, right? SEO is amazing. And if you're getting good SEO, and when we're off this, I'll show you like what your SEO stats look like. If you just did a little bit more on that, because again, it's impressive, but it's not where it could be, right? If you did a little bit more, and you literally built a community around yourself, like you're a veteran, you live in, Cary, like I'm assuming your area is like booming and growing, right? Like, especially if there's going to be a recession coming up, you need to keep your foot on the gas, and you need to build your brand. Build your brand and invest in organic. Once you start getting a little bit more, you get your SEO, get your name out. Like, again, people are searching for you. I had another client who designed his site. We turned it on. Within a week, he had like 10, 12 leads. People were searching for him, and he didn't exist. So if you're getting leads organically like that, that means that people are searching for you. And if you dominated even more your area and you became like the go-to woodworker, woodshop near me, you kill it. You kill it, right? Raise your prices. You hire hire one person, hire an admin. That's the first thing that I would do. Second thing is hire some help in the shop, right? Raise your prices. If you raise your prices by 30, 40%, build your brand as like the go-to, table maker in your area. Mm-hmm. You do it.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
It is. You're right. I do need to raise my prices, and I feel like I have slowly been it, but I need to be better about it. That's for sure. I feel like I still get more yeses, like way more yeses than nos when I give out quotes.
Yeah.
I should probably get a few more nos.
You should probably get a few more no's. Well, here's the other thing. I went to a conference not too long ago, and I'm going to say something that hurt my feelings, and I took a little bit personally, but I'm going to say it to you, and I'm really saying it to the tens of thousands of people that listen to this podcast. And it is, you need to step up and be a business owner and a CEO.
Yeah.
A lot of people avoid that. A lot of people say, I don't want to get too big. I don't want to do this. I don't want to manage people. And what it is actually doing is that you're playing small.
Right.
We're doing the things because we feel like we don't want more responsibility. Well, in fact, if you build the right systems, you're actually being more impactful and effective. And then you're actually working on the things that you truly love to do, and you hire out the rest.
Right. Yeah, I know. I definitely could outsource a few things, at least a part-time employee, and grow that to a full-time. I think that is probably the next step.
And then the last point that I want to say, and I don't know if I said this on a podcast, but I've definitely said this to the people that I mentor and coach, is you want to be the 55-year-old, 60-year-old person still making tables.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
You do. Okay. But at that moment, are you doing it because you have to, or doing it because you want to? And could you do the type of business where you're really selective and potentially you're charging $30,000 a table, and you have the type of brand which is like Nakashima.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everything else, people are like, oh my God, the DeCicco tables, right? Like, oh my God, like this is the one that he made. Versus one of his, like, and you have a line, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, do you want to build something that runs without you? You can take a vacation or two and not have to work, right? And so those are the types of things that I've been pushing more and more of within the Woodpreneur community is like, don't think small, think as big as possible, and you can build a business and a life that you want, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what did you take away from my little rant, from my little session?
I do think that you get into the minutia of the just building furniture, that it's easy to ignore growing the business. There's a significant effort that needs to be given to growing the business. And I'm definitely guilty of just need to build this furniture and not focusing on growing the business at all.
Yeah.
Which is, you're right, is not the long-term goal.
Yeah.
I do still think I don't want to be a multi-employee business because, again, I managed people already for like 10 years. I sort of hate it. But I do think a small shop with a few employees could be really cool and could definitely help grow the business so I can focus on the things that I really like doing, like cutting joinery and whatnot. Yeah, instead of other things. So you're right. You're right.
Dude, I felt the same way. I built another business. I had 25 employees and I hated it. And then I realized, like, oh my God, I'm a leader. You have that in you. You're a leader. You're truly a leader. Like,
no, I know. It's a problem and I don't want to do it.
No, I totally, dude, I get it. It's like you're doing yourself into the service and your family and your legacy of the service by like, it's totally not you. I'm speaking for myself too. Like, oh yeah, you gotta build businesses and sometimes it sucks. But I would say that the biggest difference is you were handed those employees that you were managing. Now you get to actually select your employees that you want, right? And so,
yeah.
Anyway, how can people get in touch? What's your Instagram? How can people get in touch?
I mean, social media, DeCicco Woodshop, DeCicco Woodshop.
Yep.
I got the website. Check out the website. Got some beautiful photos on there. I do need to update it. I got a lot of new pieces that I haven't put up on the website in a while. So
cool.
Those are the best ways to get a hold of me, though, for sure.
Awesome, man. Hey, dude, so thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and I'm pretty sure this is going to inspire a lot of people. You're killing it. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
You have a great backlog. I see that you've got all the right pieces in place.
Yeah. I've been fortunate with, like, people, I don't know, finding me and wanting to do these really cool custom pieces because they, like, each new really awesome dining table, I think, can be really inspiring to, like, oh, man, you can do that? Like,
yeah.
I want one of them. So it's
Cool.
just like each piece just builds.
Any last bit of parting advice for the Woodpreneur community?
I mean, I get a lot of questions about people trying to go from like the part-time to the full-time work. And you just got to grind. Like I was working nights and weekends for like 2-3 years, just grinding out before I went full-time. So that's to just keep grinding. That's what I had to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Craig. I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood, flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.